I know I'm a little bit late to this party, but Puss in Boots came out, The Last Wish. And the reason I'm late to this movie is the fact that it is Puss in Boots. Now, the thing is, I never care about spin-offs, and I especially don't really care for sequels, especially when it comes to movies like this. And this is a spin-off sequel. I never really saw a trailer of this movie because I wasn't interested. And when I started to get a buttload of people saying, dude, you need to watch this movie. You need to watch this movie, especially you guys. Even on one of my live streams, I was kind of laughing at a few people because like, dude, you need to watch this movie. I'm like, Puss in Boots? What do you think we're gonna? You think I care about Puss in Boots? And even on my last video, I had so many people comment about Puss in Boots this, Puss in Boots that. You need to watch. And then I started seeing videos and thumbnails of people saying it's perfect. It's a masterpiece. It's incredible. So finally, I did it. I watched the movie, and you guys were right. You got me. You were right. Okay, you were. It's an amazing movie. It's incredible. I'm not sugarcoating it here when I say it's probably the best movie of the year. To say I was surprised in this movie would be a huge understatement. I went in this movie with absolutely zero expectations, expecting to get a little bit bored. Even in the beginning of the movie, when Puss in Boots started doing his song, I was just like, kind of rolling my eyes a bit. And then boom, the big dude comes in, huge, awesome action sequence. I'm instantly gripped into this movie. Start out, let's just talk about the animation alone. The animation is so freaking good in this movie. A lot of people are comparing it to Spider-Verse, and I could kind of get why. It's that like low frames, almost stop motion-y feel, little bit glitchy. The colors are just extremely vibrant and pops. Like some of the angles and like the choreography that they use within the animation, it's just so freaking cool. And just the concept of them going into the dark forest, and every time someone else grabs the map, it like is a reflection of who they are and stuff like that, and all the different things that happen because of it, and how the terrain shifts. The animation alone makes this movie incredible, and it doesn't stop there. I'm not gonna lie, I got quite emotional in this movie. Yeah, a Puss in Boots movie. A grown man got emotional in a Puss in Boots movie. Do you understand that? This is some of the greatest writing out of DreamWorks I've seen in such a long time. There was a slew of characters in this movie, which I was honestly worried would bog it down a little bit, and there would be like characters I don't care about, characters I get annoyed with, or, I would be like, oh, if they took those characters out, nothing would have been lost. That whole spiel that a lot of movies tend to have with a lot of characters. But this was the complete opposite. I cared about every single character in this movie. I loved all of them. My favorite character is definitely Death, and that's just mainly because of the fear that it instills in you every time Death comes up on screen. Every time he gets on screen, the audio gets muffled, like the red color scheme, his eyes like just popping with red. His design is so freaking cool and intimidating, and just showing Puss in Boots have an actual panic attack after seeing Death like coming for him, like it's so freaking cool. And also the fact that he's actually like a real thing, like he is technically the symbolic personification of Death, but in the fairy tale world, he is real. Honestly, for a while there, I was starting to think that Death was like all in Puss in Boots' head, and it was going to be some sort of symbol. But the fact that he was actually real, honestly, I love that. I feel like it made every time he appeared so much more terrifying. And then we have Goldilocks and the Three Bears, which their dynamic is so entertaining. I honestly loved every time they were on screen. And just the story of why they are going to the last wish, and you gradually figuring out what Goldilocks is planning on wishing for and all that different stuff. And it is a little bit cliche how, they're all going to discover this last wish in order to wish for something, but in the end, they figure out that they didn't need the wish all along type deal. But it's written so well that you can't help but love it. Also, let's talk about the dog, okay? I'm not gonna lie. When the dog first appeared in the movie, thought I was gonna hate him. I genuinely thought his overbearing kindness would be just really annoying and frustrating at times. But I'm not gonna lie, I would say out of all of the good characters in the movie, he might be my favorite. He is literally the personification of happiness, as in someone who finds happiness even in the darkest times. And especially with his traumatic past that he had to go through, and he still just holds his chin up. It's actually really inspiring, and I love it. But the dynamic between that character and Kitty Softpaw and Puss in Boots is just really good, because Puss in Boots and Softpaw completely lost all faith in anyone and lost all trust with anyone. They're basically solo in their lives and are afraid to trust anyone. And then you have Pero, who is the complete opposite of that, because he's dealt with stuff honestly worse than what they have dealt with, and he's coming out on top completely happy. And I also love the concept of like the 9 lives and how he's on his last life and him struggling with that fear, because he's always lived his life without fear because he doesn't have to worry about dying. In all his past lives, he never really lived to its fullest because he just didn't have to care about it, because there was nothing at stake. He didn't have to worry about death. And then Jack Horner, dude, this character is so goddamn funny. It had me and my wife both bursting in laughter multiple times. Just the ridiculousness of the character as a whole, how the character looks, and also how obscure his fairy tale or nursery rhyme is. And throughout the journey, he treats every single one of his workers as like fodder, basically. You watch multiple of them die horribly in terrible ways, and Jack's just sitting there looking at them and laughing throughout the entire time and basically blaming them for dying. He even kills multiple of his workers. And also that little conscience character that comes out that's supposed to be the little cricket on your shoulder that tells you what to do, and just laughing at how the cricket just can't get through to him and he just is terrible the entire time. Don't get me wrong, I do feel like villains that are just straight, oh, I'm evil, there's no other reason, I just want to be a bad guy, they can be bad. I feel like villains with depth tend to have more value. But I feel like the reason they wrote him as just pure evil is for multiple reasons. Number one, it's for comedy's sake, because it's just absolutely ridiculous. And number two, there are multiple antagonists that already have depth. So just adding in the extra hilarity of Jack Horner just being a pure evil dude that just kills all of his workers just for the hell of it, it works so well. And boy, the fights at the end are just so visually stunning. Like, Western animation is kind of kicking it up a notch when it comes to like choreography and fights. You know, I feel like anime does take the cake when it comes to a lot of fights, because that's just kind of like their thing. But I feel like Western animation is really picking it up when it comes to fights and battles, and it was so good to watch. And I did mention this before, but I kind of want to mention it again. The whole concept of people grabbing the map, and the person who grabs the map, you get a view of who they are as a person. And whenever Goldilocks grabs the map, and then it literally questions Goldilocks saying, hey, you sure you want to do this? Because you might have your wish already and you just don't realize it. And then you see Kitty Softpaws and Puss in Boots. Every time they grab it, it's just pure, you know, mayhem. And then Puss in Boots, at that one point, he actually gets to see the reflection of his past lives and see how like pompous and honestly terrible of a person he really was. And also watching Puss in Boots and Kitty Softpaws go to Perito and try to break him down almost, and try to be like, yo, life is not this good, stop being so positive. And throughout all of that, he just doesn't care and just pushes through with positivity. There's so much in this movie that is so good. I want to talk about death a little bit more. First of all, 1,000 people have already said this, but holy shit, he's actually terrifying. Like, no joke, he literally leaves you a little bit worried every time he's on screen, a little bit nervous every time. I also love the reason he's going after Puss in Boots. He's not going after Puss in Boots just because he doesn't like him. He's actually not even really going after him because he has 9 lives. The reason he's going after him is because he has these 9 lives, yet he wasted all of them. He treated each life like for naught. And the reason Death hated that so much is he didn't believe that Puss in Boots deserved these 9 lives if he never even appreciated one of them. So he wanted to instill that fear of death into Puss in Boots so he could finally appreciate life for what it is. Because his previous 8 lives, he honestly just threw away and never really cared about it. Which I feel like this whole movie is literally just about living life to the fullest. It honestly does not deserve to go this hard. A freaking Puss in Boots movie does not deserve to go this freaking hard, but boy did it. If you have not seen this movie because it's Puss in Boots, stop. It blew everybody's expectations out of the water because there were no expectations, all right? And this is coming from someone who didn't watch the first one. Now, I don't know if I missed any little details or information from the first one. It didn't feel like it. It never really felt like I missed out on anything, because anytime I thought I was missing out on something, they ended up explaining it anyway. So I don't know. Maybe there's some stuff that the first one had that maybe the sequel had. Thank you for watching this video. I know it's a little bit of a short one, but I really wanted to talk about this. Everyone's been asking me to talk about this, and I know everyone and their mom has already talked about this, but I want to talk about it anyway. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.